Okay, this is the Algebra 1 Unit 1 Skill 14 lesson video. This is going to be our last lesson in Algebra 1 Unit 1. And then I will post on the classroom page kind of what you need to do before you take the test. So looking at the material, we're doing more stuff with fractions. And there's two main concepts, or maybe three main concepts in this lesson. The first one we need to talk about before we get into the second two is about mixed numbers. So a mixed number is like this. It's a number that is made up of a whole number with a fraction. So this is 2 3/5. And we need to be able to convert this mixed number into a improper fraction. So that's what we're going to be doing here. An improper fraction is when the number in the numerator or the top of the fraction is actually bigger than the number in the denominator. So for a mixed number, this means we have two entire sets of 5. Because our fraction is a fifth, we know that in general, 1 is the same as saying 5/5. So we're going to take this concept and we're going to apply it to this number here. So how can I use this to convert this into an improper fraction? Well, because there are two whole numbers here, all I have to do to find the mixed number is multiply the whole number times the denominator. So in this case, 2 times 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then the 3 is going to stay there. And so the improper fraction for 2 3/5 is 13/5. Let's look at one more example. Let's say I'm given 4 8/9. Again, in order to convert, I'm going to do 4 times 9, and that gives me 36 plus 8/9. 36 plus 8 is 44/9, and so that would be the improper fraction for 4 8/9. So we need that concept first. So the reason we need that is because we're going to be multiplying and dividing fractions. And some of those fractions that we're multiplying and dividing are going to be mixed numbers. So let's talk real quickly about how we actually multiply fractions, and then we'll see a few examples as well where we have a mixed number. I'll do some examples that are not the ones in your unit, but let's say I had the fraction 3/5 times 2/6. So if I wanted to multiply these fractions, I'm going to really simply, doesn't take that much, you just multiply the numbers on the top. Sorry, let me use a different color on that. You multiply the numbers on the top and you multiply the numbers on the bottom separately. So in other words, I'm saying you don't multiply like crosswise like we did in some of the previous lessons. This is actually just 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 6 is 30. And then we have to simplify that if possible. So 6/30, they're both divisible by 6. We did this in a previous lesson where we reduced fractions. So since 6 can be divided by 6, it becomes 6 divided by 6 is 1. 30 divided by 6 is 5. Now, there's actually another way we could do that. So let me just rewrite this problem. 3/5 times 2/6. If at the very beginning of this problem, I could have recognized that 6 and 3 are both divisible by 3. And so if I do that, then the 3 goes down to 1 because 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then I could have gone further and said, well, there's a 2 here. That becomes a 1. And this 2 here becomes a 1. And then actually, when I go to multiply, I do 1 times 1, which is 1, and 5 times 1, which is 5. And so I get the same answer as I did over here. So either of these methods will work. So let me do one more example. Let's say I have 6/7 times 2/3. Again, we look at our fraction and maybe we recognize that 6 and 3 are both divisible by 3. So this reduces to a 2. This reduces to a 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 7 times 1 is 7. And there's the final answer. So again, with fraction multiplying, you multiply the numerators, the tops, and you multiply the denominators, the bottoms, and those answers go on the top and bottom of the fraction. So that's what you're going to be doing in number 1, number 2, number 3. All that different in number 3 is that you first need to convert that into a mixed number. So in that case, 2 times 2 is 4. So that would be 5/2. And so the actual problem you would do would be 5/2 times 1/7. So that's how that would work out. And then you do the same process I just showed you. Same thing with number 4. Same thing with number 5, number 6. And then we get to number 7, divide. Cross cancel if possible. Okay, so let's talk about division. Get a new drawing here. And division. So with division, if I have 2/3 divided by 1/4, the only difference between division and multiplication is that when you divide a fraction, you actually just need to rewrite that problem as a multiplication problem. And the way you do it is that in order to get division to become multiplication, you actually just switch this fraction. So 1/4 becomes 4/1. Then I go through and I multiply my different parts. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. And so that's my final answer. So the only difference between this and the multiplication problems is that you first need to flip the second fraction in that problem to make this division become multiplication. So that's what you're going to do here. Now I want to say one thing about number 7. Please note, 6 can be written as a fraction. Any whole number can be written as a fraction 6/1. So when I do this problem, this is what the problem actually looks like at the beginning. 6/1 divided by 4/5. So this is the same as this. More of the same, number 8. Number 9, again, there's 8. It's a whole number. Be aware of that. 2 is a whole number. So again, anytime you have a whole number, 2 can be written as 2/1. Same thing with number 11 and number 12. So this whole section is basically going to be either multiplying or dividing your fractions. Divisions, the only difference is there's an extra step at the beginning where you need to switch the second fraction in order to make it multiplication. And then you do the multiplication process.